The Machon number edition is Halacha He, and in others Dalet. So, as you will recall, we are discussing the mitzvah of Chidush Hashem in various circumstances. When a Jew is forced to transgress the Torah, when he is to refuse to do so, even if this involves laying down his life, or in other circumstances when he is not permitted to do so. That's what the Rambam now says in this halakha. Kol mi shene'emar bo ya'avor v'al yaharev. Any of the above situations where we said that the halakha is ya'avor v'al yaharev, that a person should rather transgress the Torah in some way, and rather than be killed. When but the person chose to allow himself to be killed by these ill-intentioned anti-Torah people, rather than transgress. Such a person is considered to have spilled his own blood, so to speak. He's not allowed to do this. Conversely, and in those situations where we said that the halakha is that he should rather be killed, for example, b'sha'at hashemad, as was mentioned in the previous halakha, where any willingness on the part of the Jew to go along with the anti-Torah program, the policy designed to uproot the Torah from Israel, any such willingness is calculated to weaken Am Yisrael's resolve. In that situation, for example, not only in that situation, but in that kind of situation, no matter what the issue at hand is, the person is required to be willing to lay down his life. When in such a situation, a person did in fact allow himself to be killed rather than transgress the Torah and weaken Am Yisrael's resolve to fight this policy, to uproot the Torah from Am Yisrael. Such a person is said to have sanctified Hashem's name. And if this was done in front of 10 Jews, in other words, it was done berabim, the minimum number of being 10 to be considered berabim. Hareza chidesh et Hashem berabim. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, in Sefer Daniel, who were willing to do this, not worship Avodah Zarah, and there was a kind of Shemad as well. Hareze Kidesh et Hashem Barabim, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Rabbi Akiva, Havero. Or another example, Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues and his students, because Rabbi Akiva, as we know, taught Torah berabim in a public fashion, even though this had been outlawed by the Romans in the wake of the Bar Kokhba revolt. And he, Rabbi Akiva, was willing to lay down his life rather than acquiesce to such a demand. These people are known as Harurei Malchut. Hazar referred to such people as those killed by the authorities, the Malchut, at a time of Shemad, when there is a policy to eradicate the Torah and to weaken Am Yisrael, and people who will not fall in line, they are called Haruvei Malchuf. وعليهم نأمر كي عليها هرقنا كل يوم نحسبنا كثم طفحة. As the Pasuk states in Tehillim, we are killed for your sake constantly. كل يوم نحسبنا كثم طفحة, like lambs led to the slaughter. وعليهم نأمر إسفول حسيداي كارثة ورثي على زبح. Very beautiful drasha on this pasuk in Tehillim Perek Nun, where it's not talking about Shemad or this mitzvah. The word Zavah, which means korban, sacrifice, is referring to exactly what it means, a sacrifice. That's the pshat. But here it's referring to people who turn themselves into a sacrifice in such a situation. Very well, we continue. So this is now Halacha Dalet 2, or well, B'chol mi shene'emar bo yaharech v'al ya'avor v'avar v'lo neharag, and any person who was in one of these situations where he was supposed to, based on what we just learned, allow himself to be killed rather than transgress and collaborate, as it were, with this policy. Such a person is said to have desecrated Hashem's name. And this took place, this act of desecration took place, the Rabbim, in front of 10 other Jews. Such a person was Mahalel et Hashem Barabim, publicly desecrated Hashem's name by demonstrating his unwillingness to risk his life for this cause, and he transgresses a mitzvah aseh by so doing. Shehi Kiddush Hashem, that is the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. Avar al mitzvah lo ta'aseh, Shehi Hilch Hashem. If you recall, there were two mitzvot mentioned by the Rambam at the beginning of Yesodei Torah that pertain to this. One was the sixth of the 10 mitzvot Rambam lists at the beginning of Yesodei Torah is L'Kadesh Shemo, and the seventh is Shelo L'Halelet Shemo. So a person by so doing transgresses both of these mitzvot. And nevertheless, so if a person should have transgressed, if a person should not have transgressed and should have allowed himself to be killed, but in the end was not killed, but he did transgress whatever it was that was demanded of him, because he did so under duress, he is not to be whipped, which would be the normal punishment for many of these averot. Let's say it was demanded of him that he eat a pork sandwich. So the onesh for that is malkuyof, is whipping, and he's patur from that because it was done b'ones. And even if he transgressed something for, let's say, avodah zarah, where the punishment is mitha, is execution. The Beit Din does not execute such a person. Even if he killed another person under duress, afilu horag ba'ones. Why not? She'en malkin u'lemithim ela la'over b'rsono ba'edim u'hathra'a. Malkuyoth, on the one hand, a whipping, a lashing, or execution, only apply to a person who willfully transgresses the Torah, the will of Hashem, in the presence of witnesses who also forewarned him. HaTorah. They told him that this is a sur what you're doing, and you're liable to be executed, or you're liable to be whipped, etc. Only then do these punishments apply. Shne'emar v'noten mizar'o lamolech, as it states in the Torah, in Sefer Vayikra, with regards to a person who worships Avodah Zarah and transgresses the Torah in as much as he commits child sacrifice. The pasuk states literally, I shall set my face against that man who did this. According to the tradition, the explanation of the Hachamim, Hahu, this refers to a person, that man, Hahu lo anus, v'lo shover, v'lo mut'eh, not a person who was anus, under duress, who was forced, and not a person who did this, who performed this avera b'shover, in other words, not really being aware that it is asur, thinking it is mutar, v'lo mut'eh, not when he's misled in some way. In other words, if a person acted in a certain way, being told that it's mutar, and he believed it was, and only for that reason did he transgress, that is mut'ayeh, such a person is not to be, cannot be executed, nor whipped. And Rabbi further explains the rationale. Now we know that Avodah Zarah is the most serious avera in the Torah on a number of levels. There are a couple of others, as we discussed, that are on a similar level of severity, of being considered major averot. Avodah Zarah is one of them. Shehi hamura min hakol, ha'oved otha ba'ones enu hayav karet. If in fact, as this statement and this limud from this pasuk, v'natati ani et panai ba'ishahu, hahu, the Torah stresses hahu, that man, that was that man when he did this with complete volition and awareness. If this is the case with regards to Avodah Zarah, if he transgressed ba'ones, he's not hayav kareth, and he's not only not hayav kareth, he's also not hayav execution. Kal v'chomer l'shar misvot ha'amarot b'Torah. This obviously would also apply even more so to other misvot in the Torah, other isurim. Uva'arayot hu omer, and also we find in the Torah with regards to Yidui Arayot, wala na'ara lo ta'aseh davar. There the Torah describes a woman who is forced, who is raped. And the Torah describes how she is blameless and should not suffer any punishment, even though she was betrothed, etc. So up to this point, Ram discussed Kiddush Hashem and the various types of mitzvah, where the Jew is presented with the choice of death or transgressing the Torah in one or another way, and the various situations as we described also, and sometimes it depends on the kind of avera being demanded of him. Now we're talking about the din of moser in the sense of Jews being involved, collaborating with such a policy, or with such a desire on the part of the evil people involved, the Gentiles who wish to For example, they wish to rape a certain woman, but there's a number of women, and they say to the women, as Rambam says here now, Noshim, Shamru lehen goyim. If Gentiles said to a group of Jewish women, Tanu lanu ahaf miken, hand over to us one of your number, unatameh, and we shall defile her. Ve'im lo, and if you do not, natameh kulachem. If not, we will rape all of you. Yitama'u chulam, they should rather all be defiled by these evil people, rather than in any way be complicit in this dastardly act. That is an act of Masirah. The background to this, of course, is the fact that it is asur for a Jew to hand over a fellow Jew to non-Jews. And such a person is called a moser, and this is considered one of the most serious avirot in the Torah. The halakha is that a moser has no halak le'olam haba, and that person is hayav mitha. The moser is to be put to death. As Rambam writes in Hilchot Avodah Zarah, Perek Yod, because such people cause great anguish and tragedy to the Jewish people, and they turn the Jewish people away from Hashem. Yeah, even in this case, when it is not the intention, shall we say, in this case, of these women, it's not their intention to turn anyone away from Hashem, but it is their intention to save themselves from such a fate. But they would be doing so by collaborating and working with these goyim against another fellow Jew. They are not allowed to do such a thing under any circumstances. Even though one might have thought that, well, it's better that one woman be raped rather than 10 women be raped. But the fact of the matter is, it is worse still that a Jew should be in any way complicit in such actions, and should assist these people in their designs. Similarly, Rambam states now, if Goyim said to them, to a group of Jews, Tanu lanu ahad mikem v'narchenu, give us, you choose, it's your choice which one of you, hand over one of your number, and we will kill him. And if you do not, we will kill all of you. Here too, the halakha is exactly the same. Yeharhu chulam. They should rather be put to death than allow themselves to be manipulated and turned into the most serious kind of criminal, according to the Torah, by these goyim. So yeharhu chulam wa'al yimsaru laha nefesh ahat miYisrael. They should rather be killed than hand over even one Jew to these people. We'im yihaduhu lahem wa'amaru. Now, on the other hand, if the case was that these Gentiles said to the Jew, hand over to us so and so, a particular person, they mentioned him by name, or we will kill all of you. If this individual was in fact worthy of being put to death without reference to these people's demand, because of actions that he had done prior to this time, who was a person who rebelled against the lawful kingship of David HaMelech, as we find in Sefer Shemuel. So if this person was anyhow Hayav Mitah, and they, for whatever reason now, demand this particular person to be handed over to them, and they will kill him, Yitunu Otholahem, in that case they are permitted to do so. Wa'en Morim Lahem Ken L'Chatchila, but we do not tell people L'Chatchila that this is the halacha. In other words, if they did so, then what they did is not considered to have been a criminal act of Masirah. But in order not to in any way play into the hands of Goyim who make such demands, and not to lead Jews into a situation where they will willingly do such things, we do not teach this, as it were, l'chatchila. We do not tell people that this is the halacha. We may not hayav, but if he is not hayav midah, this particular person that they specified, they should rather all be killed. Rather than hand over a fellow Jew to these evil people. Now, in halakha, or halakha taif, we find the following statement. Ka'inyan shamaru v'anasim kach amaru v'hulayim. In other words, this halakha that we have just explained and discussed with regards to ones, a Jew being forced to transgress the Torah under duress, under threat of death. This also applies to a situation of sickness. What does that mean? Ketzad. Mishe hala, when a person, a Jew, was very sick, very ill, and his life is in danger. And the doctors claim that there is a way, they believe, to save him, which involves this ill Jew consuming a certain food which is asur min HaTorah. For example, they claim that eating shrimps will heal this person for whatever reason. So what do? Do we say it's asur to eat shrimps and he should rather die? Or do we say, no, this is a question of pikuach nefesh. So the halacha is, or similar, we do this thing that the doctors claim he needs to be done for him. So we go out and buy these shrimps and we cook them for him, whatever has to be done, and he is to eat them because his life is in danger. It's a question of pikuach nefesh. U'mitrapeim b'chol isurin shebatorah b'mekom sakana, and it is mutar to consume any food which is asur al Torah when a person's life is in danger. B'mekom sakana. Husni avodah zarah v'chilui arayot u'shefichut damim. Except for the three major isurim that we discussed earlier in this chapter, hosmi avodah zarah, any form of foreign worship which is forbidden by the Torah, or illicit sexual relations, gilui arayot, or shefichut damim, or bloodshed. These things may not be done, she'afilu b'mekom sakana, even when the person's life is in danger, and mitrapeim bahem, even if it could somehow be construed that by transgressing one of these things, the person's life could be saved, it is not permissible to do so. And if the person did so, in other words, he deliberately transgressed this isur in order to heal himself, in this case, he is to be punished according to what the halacha provides, because this was done deliberately. It was not under duress by. This is not considered honest. This is considered a person who opted to transgress the Torah when he was not allowed to do so. The reason it is mutar to consume, shall we say, any of the ma'achalot ha'asurot, any of the forbidden foodstuffs for medical purposes, is because this is clearly nothing to do with any kind of collaboration with various people who have this evil design to uproot the Torah from Israel or to weaken their resolve. It has clearly nothing to do with that, and is not reasonable to assume that this will lead to any such laxity on the part of other Jews because of this case where he was ill and his life was in danger. And therefore, except for those three averot we mentioned, avodah zarah, gilui arayot, u'shfichut damim, it is mutar to take any such concoction or eat any such food or take any medicine which does in fact involve some isur. Rambam continues, and how do we know this? From where do we learn this? In other words, why in this case do we say, yes, it's mutar to transgress any isur when a person's life is in danger? Any kind of medical procedure or consuming any food is mutar, except for these three avirot. Why do we say this? Shneimar, it states, "V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha." The well-known pasuk that we are to love Hashem with all our being, with all our strength, with our power. Afilu hu notel et nafshecha, even if Hashem takes your life, and that this mitzvah is also connected, of course, to the overall mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. Even if you find yourself in a situation where you are required to lay down your life, that's a situation of afiluhu noteret nafshecha, where your life is being demanded of you. Nevertheless, you should prefer Hashem over your own life. That is with regards to the mitzvah aseh of Kiddush Hashem. V'harigat nefesh Yisrael, the rapot nefesh aheret. Now, the killing of one Jew in order to heal another Jew, or lehasil adam miyad anas, or in order to save a person from the demands and the threats of an evil and violent person who demands that you do this or he will harm you or kill you, etc. Refusing to go along with such a thing. This is something which is basically common sense. One's reason would direct the person to act in such a way. Why? Why would it be mutar for Shimon to kill Reuven in order to save himself? Why is Reuven's nefesh, his life, less valuable than his own? The only possible reason would be that he prefers his own life to somebody else's life. But in essence, these two nefashot are equal, and neither can be sacrificed in such a way for the other. And Gilui Arayot is compared to bloodshed, as the pasuk states, referring to the rape of a betrothed woman. When she is not complicit. But this man acting in such a way, the Torah compares him to a murderer. So these mitzvot of Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayot, and Shefirut Damim are all comparable when it comes to these things. It should be pointed out that this halacha about En hororim nefesh mipanei nefesh, that one person is not to be killed in order to save another person, another Jew. This is true in the following situation, where each of them is equally endangering the other. In other words, let's say these evil goyim say to these two Jews, Shimon and Reuven, they say to both of them, kill the other person, or we will kill you. So they are both, as it were, endangering each other. The fact that they are both alive now, and that they are both being told the same thing, they represent to each other, as it were, equally a danger. And therefore we do not, we cannot choose one over the other. On what basis would we tell Reuven, you can kill Shimon, but Shimon, no, you cannot kill Reuven? That we cannot do. But if you have two Jews where one endangers the other, A endangers B, but B is not endangering the life of A at all, such as a situation where A is running after B with an axe in his hand for whatever reason. I don't know what happened before. Maybe he lost his mind, or he's in a fit of rage, and he is chasing down this other person. Obviously, his intention is to kill him. But B is not trying to kill A, he's just trying to flee. So that's the case of a rodef, a person who is chasing after another to kill him. There we are required to kill the rodef in order to save the nirdaf, to save the person whose life is being threatened by this other person. That rodef, by so doing, forfeits his life. Another example of such a situation is when a woman in childbirth reaches a point where her life is in danger. If we allow this attempt to give birth to the child to continue, it seems that her life is in danger. In other words, really, the ubar, the unborn child, is the rodef, is endangering her life. She is not endangering the unborn child's life, but she is being nirdaf. Her life is being placed in danger by this child. We are allowed to intervene, such as dissecting, cutting up the child inside the womb and removing it in pieces in order to save the mother's life. That is mutar, because the child is considered in this case, unfortunately, to be a rodef, and the woman's life is in danger. That is a situation where it is mutar to kill the rodef, as it is in a situation where one is chasing the other, trying to kill him, and one endangers the life of the other. Because the klal is en dohim nefesh mipanei nefesh. We do not allow one life to endanger another life. All right. Halacha Heth or Yod Aleph. במה דברים אמורים שאין מתרפאים בשאר איסורים? אלא במקום סכנה, what we said previously was, in halacha well, or Teth, we said that it is mutar to consume various forbidden foods in order to heal a person when that person's life is in danger. B'makom sakana. When is this? And we only do this when there is danger to this person's life. When is this the case? Bizman shehen derech hana'athan. This is true when what the Jew in question who is ill and whose life is in danger as a result of this illness, when he is being told to eat a certain food, shall we say, as we said before, let's say shrimps, derech hana'athan, as they would normally be eaten by a person who eats such food. In other words, it's perfectly good food, it's tasty. Many people in the world eat these things all the time, but for a Jew it's asur. And if he eats it, he will taste this food and enjoy it perhaps as any person eating this food might. In other words, in the kind of situation where the person would be told to eat all kinds of forbidden foods, such as shrimps and prawns and crabs and what have you. These things are referred to as shaqasim, things which are meshukas, things which are disgusting, ramasim, creepy, crawly things, or something else, or hametz b'Pesach. It could be this person is very ill during the course of Pesach, and the doctor says what he needs now is to eat a piece of bread of hametz, and this could save his life. Or we are told that on Yom Kippur that this person has to eat right now. He cannot fast. And if he fasts, his life is being endangered. There, we only allow such a thing when it is clear that there is sakana to his life, whether his life is endangered, and when the food in question is to be consumed in the usual manner. Aval shelo derech hana'athan, but if this is not the case, keron she'osim lo retya or meluchma mehames or me'orla. If we are talking about healing this person who is ill in some way, not by consuming shrimps or prawns or crab in the way that these foods are normally consumed, but rather we have to make a paste to apply to a wound this person is suffering from, and place a bandage over this paste, which is made of prawns, shall we say. So he's not ingesting the prawn as prawns are normally ingested, but he's going to benefit from it. Rutya is a bandage with some kind of ointment or cream applied to it. Or meluchma. Meluchma is also a kind of paste made of crushed grains or other foods which are applied to a wound or some swelling or some such thing. So if such a thing is to be made of hametz during Pesach, or shall we say orla, it needs to be prepared from fruit, which is orla. In other words, the tree from which this fruit comes was planted less than 3 years ago. So it's asur to eat this fruit. But now he's not eating the fruit. This fruit will be crushed, will be turned into some kind of a medication which is applied externally. It will not be eaten. או שמשקים אותו דברים שיש בהם מר מעורב עם איסורי מאכל, or we are talking about some kind of concoction where a certain substance which is asur, which is forbidden, but it's being given to him in the form of some kind of potion or some kind of drink which tastes terrible. It's mixed up with various things, and it has a terrible bitter and the kind of flavor, and it's a kind of substance that a person would normally never drink. But he's only drinking this because he's told he must for medical reasons. So therefore, he doesn't benefit from the taste, from the flavor of this forbidden food, because it's covered up by these other ingredients and it tastes altogether disgusting. Harei mutar. This is why, because the palate does not gain any enjoyment, pleasure from this substance. Harei mutar. In such a case, it is mutar. Afilu shelo b'makom sakana, even if there is no danger to this person's life. Except for these two isurim of kila'ei hakerem, which is where grain such as wheat or certain vegetables were grown together with grapevines in a vineyard. So these things that were grown together, both the vines and the other things such as the grain, that were grown together in proximity to each other, these are called kila'ei hakerem, and these are asur b'hanaya. These are asur even to benefit from, not just to eat and consume in the usual way, but to gain any benefit from. The same applies to basar b'halav, meat that was cooked in milk, shall we say. Let's say a steak that was at some point in its preparation, it was fried or cooked with butter. All right, that's basar b'halav. These isurim are also isurei hanaya, not just isurei achila. Shehen asurim afilu shelo derech hana'atan. In other words, generally, any ma'achal asur in the Torah, it could be pork, and it could be any non-kosher meat, or it could be, as we said, various types of seafood, etc. Any or hames on Pesach. Hames is mutar the entire year, but on Pesach it is asur. So at this moment it's an isur hamur bin HaTorah. Any such isur is only when is asur bin HaTorah when it is consumed in the usual manner, when the person tastes it and benefits and enjoys it, as this food would be enjoyed by a person who is allowed to eat such a food, such as a non-Jew. Only then is that food asur. But if it is ingested in a manner where the person doesn't benefit or taste it at all, or doesn't enjoy the experience in the least, such as where he has to drink this concoction, which tastes absolutely terrible, and within this concoction there are certain forbidden foodstuffs. This is mutar because there is no hanaya lahech, and this is mutar even when there is no sakana involved. Lefichach, Rambam says, en mitrapim bahem afilu shel derech hana'atan ela b'makom sakana. With regards to those two things only, kila'ei hakerem and basar b'halav, where there is an isur hanaya and not just an isur achila, these particular things one cannot partake of for medicinal purposes, unless there is sakana, unless the person's life is in danger. So what we understand from this halakha is, for example, that if a person is told by his doctor, you must take this tablet every day, once a day, and it's important to your health that you take this tablet, and this tablet is a coated or chewable tablet. such that when you place it in your mouth, you're supposed to chew it, or it has a flavor, a pleasant flavor to it. If this tablet is made of hametz, and we're talking about Pesach, it is asur to ingest this tablet. It is asur to use this medicine, unless we are talking about sakana, unless the person's life is in danger. But if we are talking about some kind of medication, a pill, a capsule, in which there is there are various ingredients, one of which is hametz, which is frequently the case, because flour is often used to bind together various substances into a pill or placed inside a capsule. But in the case of a capsule, for example, or other types of tablets which have no flavor or an unpleasant flavor, you just swallow them. You don't taste you don't taste this food stuff. You don't benefit from it. You don't enjoy it. In fact, you don't even taste it. You're not even aware of it. You just happen to know it's there, but it's not compared. It cannot be compared to eating this food. So any such medicine on Pesach where you do not taste in any way the hametz, which is part of this medicine, you are allowed to take on Pesach, even if there's no sakana. Okay, so let's say a person, it might be a diabetic, he has to take a certain medication every day. If he doesn't, it's not good for him. Or another kind of medication, whatever it might be, or blood pressure, or whatever it is, heart condition, blood thinner, something which he really needs to take, and he should not go a week without ingesting this medicine. And there is hametz within this medicine, but it is in, shall we say, capsule form, or some kind of tablet which doesn't taste very good at all, and you swallow it with water and you don't taste anything at all. That is mutar to be used on Pesach, even when there is no sakana. We shall stop here for today, gentlemen. Hayu beruchim. His school.
Quick question.
Yes, bakasha.
Sorry. For gelatin is allowed because it's completely turned into something else that is tasteless and baseless, or it's a completely different form. If the gelatin is added, or if the chimutz doesn't have a taste, but it's put with something that has a good taste, but the chimutz or the forbidden item doesn't have a flavor, is that permissible, like gelatin with like a marshmallow?
With regards to gelatin from a source which is asur, such as the bones of an animal which were not kasher, there is a mahaloket amongst the poskim whether such gelatin is mutar or asur. Al Chaim Oizel, Gozhensky, the Baal Ahiezer, before the Second World War, wrote a teshuvah about this, in which he claims that it is mutar because it is turned into a tasteless substance which is essentially unrelated to its origin. So it's not, you cannot be considered to be eating any part of this animal. It's not recognizable. It doesn't have the flavor. It doesn't have the taste. It's technically derived from that animal, true, but other than that, there is no. It cannot be considered to be eating. It's not like eating the meat of that animal, shall we say? He considered it to be mutar, and there are other poskim who also thought so. On the other hand, there are poskim who disagreed, including Rabbi Moshe Feinstein has a teshuvah where he disagrees. I once wrote something with regards to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein's proof that he wished to bring why it's a sword, where I explained that I do not really understand his proof from the Rambam. I don't think it follows. At any rate, there is a mahloket about that. So some would say that bichal it's asur to eat any food, any such marshmallow, shall we say, which contains a gelatin from a source which is forbidden. Others will say it's mutar. I tend to the view that such gelatin is mutar, And even if it's mixed up now with other things which are tasty, that doesn't change that fact.
So if the chimutz didn't have a flavor but was acting as a binder, and it was like put in a gummy.
You're talking about chametz on Pesach?
Yeah, so I'm trying to draw a parallel for chimutz that you have on Pesach that has no flavor. It's used as a binder for a pill.
So you're using the word chimus, which...
Oh, sorry, chametz, not
chametz.
Yeah,
We're
chametz.
talking about chametz on Pesach. All right, yes.
So if you have something that's chametz on Pesach, it has no flavor, it's used as a binder, and you combine it with something that is tasty like a gummy, would it be okay because the chametz has
a gummy being what exactly? Some kind of
vitamin gummy?
Gum?
No, like a vitamin gummy. Something that's optional. That's not
a chewable pill.
Yeah.
Okay. If it is part of a what you describe, a chewable pill, in which the water and flour were mixed, and the overall this pill as a whole has a flavor, has a taste to it, which is quite either tasty or at least palatable, then it is asur. It's only if the tablet is entirely tasteless or even worse than that, has a bad taste to it, bitter, something which you just want to swallow as quickly as possible and not experience at all, then it is mutar. Otherwise, no.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Shalom, shalom. Hizku v'yames levavchem kol hameyahalim l'Adonai.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org. If you are inspired by Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to get involved in Torah Eretz Yisrael activities in your local area, please fill out the relevant form by going to the link which appears on the screen.